There are moments in life when love doesn't show up the way you expect it to. It doesn't arrive loud, polished, or wrapped in the perfect package. Sometimes it comes disguised, as hesitation, as silence, as someone pulling back just when you want them to come closer. And it's easy, so easy, to mistake that for indifference. But what if I told you that sometimes the people who stand the furthest away love the deepest? You're here because something inside you senses the truth. This avoidant soul isn't indifferent. They're not careless. They're not cold. They are terrified of losing something they've never had before. Your presence, your warmth, your stability, your love. People who have been wounded by life don't love casually. They don't hand out trust like candy. They guard their hearts like sacred ground. And when someone like that chooses you, when they return, when they stay connected even in small ways, when they reveal even fragments of their inner world, those are not small gestures. Those are courage in motion. You may not see their love in constant words, but you see it in their pattern of returning. You may not hear it in emotional declarations, but you feel it in the way they soften around you. You may not always understand their pauses, but you can sense the yearning behind their eyes. And here's the truth. An avoidant who truly loves you loves only you because they do not have the capacity to fake intimacy. Their nervous system won't allow it. Their heart won't allow it. If they didn't care, they would detach completely. When they love with a loyalty anchored in fear, in hope, in longing, and in truth. But listen closely. This is not about waiting for them to heal. This is about you becoming the lighthouse, not the lifeboat. Not chasing, not pleading, not shrinking yourself to accommodate their fears. You thrive. You rise. You build your life on solid ground. Because love does not grow in pressure. It grows in presence. When you stand firm in your worth, you become the safety they've never known. When you hold boundaries with compassion, you teach their heart that connection doesn't equal danger. When you love from strength, not fear, you invite them into a higher version of themselves. This is where transformation happens. When your love becomes a catalyst, not a crutch. When your certainty becomes the signal that says, it is safe to love here. It is safe to stay. Someone who fears love yet still reaches for you. That's extraordinary. That's devotion fighting fear. Hope overcoming history. Love rewriting old narratives. So step into your power. Become the embodiment of steady love. You're not here to rescue them, you're here to rise with them. And together, through patience, truth, and strength, you can create a connection that doesn't just survive, it transcends. Because when an avoidant soul loves only you, it's not just love, it's destiny pushing through fear. It's transformation in real time. It is a miracle wearing human skin. And you, yes, you, were chosen for that miracle. An avoidant person often loves in ways that are far deeper than they can express. But their expressions don't align with what most people consider normal or visible affection. Their love operates beneath the surface, quiet but intense, restrained but powerful. When someone with an avoidant attachment style truly loves, they tend to feel everything more deeply than they show, and because of that, their outward behavior can appear contradictory. On one hand, they may crave closeness. On the other, they have an instinctive impulse to pull away when emotions grow too overwhelming. This push-and-pull rhythm isn't a reflection of a lack of care. Instead, it highlights just how meaningful the connection feels to them and how afraid they are of the potential heartbreak that closeness could bring. For an avoidant person, vulnerability feels like stepping off a cliff without knowing whether the ground will catch them. Their emotional system is wired to protect them from disappointment, rejection, or engulfment. They learned, often very early in life, that showing neediness or emotional dependence could lead to abandonment or criticism. So now as adults, the simple act of caring deeply feels like a threat to their inner stability. They fear that if they reveal how much someone truly means to them, they will lose control, or worse, lose the person entirely. As a result, their love becomes quieter, more cautious, and more guarded. This doesn't mean they love any less. In fact, it often means they love more. An avoidant person won't waste emotional energy on people who don't matter. They rarely invest in superficial bonds. They don't chase after short-lived connection. They tend to stay on the surface with most people. Maintaining emotional distance is a form of self-protection. But when someone touches their heart, when someone breaks through their emotional walls, that person becomes profoundly significant to them, sometimes more significant than they can admit even to themselves. Their love often shows up in subtle behaviors. They pay attention to details, Others might overlook. They remember the small things you say. They show up when you truly need them, even if they struggle to initiate closeness. An avoidant person may not be the one to flood you with affection, but they'll quietly observe what makes you smile, what calms you, what matters to you. They care deeply about your well-being, but they express it in ways that feel safe to them, through practical actions, gentle presence, or the willingness to stay connected even when they feel overwhelmed. Their silence is not emptiness, it is processing. Their distance is not dismissal, it is fear. Their hesitation is not indifference, it is the intensity of feeling something real. Love, for them, is not casual. It is a storm they must navigate carefully. When they pull back, it is often because their feelings have grown stronger, not weaker. They retreat as a way to regain emotional equilibrium, to make sense of what they are feeling, and to ensure they don't lose themselves in the intensity. Because of this, the love of an avoidant individual can be incredibly loyal and devoted once trust is established. If they remain in your life, despite their instinct to stay protected, it means you hold a place in their heart that is not easily replaced. Their love may not follow the typical patterns of romance, but its depth is undeniable. It is cautious love, deliberate love, survival-based love, but love nonetheless. And when they choose you, they are choosing someone who has touched the deepest parts of them, the parts they rarely allow anyone to see. Their distance is usually a protective mechanism, not a sign of lack of love. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about people with avoidant tendencies. What looks like emotional withdrawal from the side is often an internal survival strategy. It's not that they don't care, it's that caring feels dangerous. Intimacy triggers old patterns, old wounds, old memories of times when closeness led to pain or disappointment. So when they feel themselves getting too attached, their instinct says, step back before you get hurt. That instinct is powerful, automatic, and deeply ingrained. Avoidant individuals often grew up in environments where emotional needs were dismissed, minimized, or met with inconsistency. They learned early in life to rely on themselves because relying on others didn't feel safe. Over time, this becomes a psychological armor. It helps them function, stay independent, and avoid vulnerability. But the moment love enters the picture, real, meaningful love, that armor becomes both a shield and a barrier. They want connection, but their body and mind send signals to retreat. Not because they don't love, but because the possibility of losing that love feels unbearable. Distance becomes their reflexive way of managing emotional overload. When their feelings become too intense, when they sense expectations, or when they fear letting someone down, they withdraw to regain equilibrium. To them, that space is not rejection, it's self-regulation. They genuinely believe that stepping back protects both themselves and a person they care about. They fear that if they stay too close while feeling overwhelmed, they might break down, shut down, or say something they can't take back. Their distance is often a desperate attempt to keep the connection intact, not to end it. This protective pattern is confusing for the person on the receiving end. It feels counterintuitive. If they love me, why do they pull away? Why don't they want to be closer? But for the avoidant, closeness and fear are intimately linked. The closer they get to someone who matters, the more their old defenses flare up. It's like walking toward a warm fire while feeling the memory of past burns on their skin. They want the warmth, they crave the connection, but they fear the potential pain that love might bring. Their withdrawal is often filled with inner conflict. They don't walk away lightly. They think, overthink, analyze, and question their emotions. They wonder whether they're ready, whether they're too much, or whether the relationship will eventually expose their vulnerabilities. They may pull back physically, but emotionally they are wrestling with themselves. Their mind says, protect yourself, while their heart whispers, don't lose this person. This internal battle creates the distance that looks like disinterest, yet it's rooted in caring too much. They also fear disappointing someone they love. The more they value you, the more they fear being inadequate. Their distance is a shield against the possibility of failing you. In their minds, they think, if I stay too close, I might mess this up. So they step back, not because they want to leave, but because they were terrified of letting you down or revealing parts of themselves they believe are unlovable. When an avoidant person chooses to return after pulling away, that act speaks volumes. Coming back requires vulnerability. It means they've processed their fear enough to reach out again. It means the connection matters enough to push through internal resistance. Their distance was never the absence of love. It was the presence of fear and the weight of longing wrapped in self-protection. Understanding this doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it reveals the truth behind it. Their heart is not close. D. It's guarded. Their love is not absent. It's hidden. Their distance is not a rejection of you. It's an attempt to shield themselves from the depth of what they feel for you. When an avoidant chooses to stay, even inconsistently, it reflects a powerful internal commitment. This truth often goes unnoticed by those who don't understand the inner world of avoidant attachment. For someone who fears emotional dependence, who associates closeness with risk, and who instinctively retreats when feelings intensify, the very act of remaining connected is monumental. Their presence, even if it comes with pauses, shutdowns, or moments of withdrawal, is not accidental. It is intentional, and it signals that something in you has touched a place within them that they rarely allow anyone to reach. Avoidants are wired to keep relationships shallow and safe. Casual interactions, surface-level friendships, and connections that don't require emotional exposure feel manageable to them. They can navigate those with ease because there's no real risk involved. The moment someone becomes meaningful, however, their internal alarms go off. Love threatens their equilibrium. Attachment triggers fears they've spent years suppressing. And yet, when an avoidant stays, despite feeling overwhelmed or afraid, it means the relationship holds a significance that overrides their instinct to run. This staying doesn't always look like traditional commitment. It might show up as checking in periodically after pulling away, maintaining communication even during stressful phases, or holding onto the connection in quiet, subtle ways. An avoidant may not be able to offer constant closeness, but the fact that they remain tethered to you reveals their inner dedication. Their inconsistency is not a sign of wavering faith. Feelings, it's a sign of the internal battle between their longing for connection and their fear of being hurt. For them, staying requires courage. Every time they choose to reconnect, they push against the emotional walls they've built for protection. They challenge their own patterns. They stretch beyond their comfort zone. This is why small acts from them can carry enormous meaning. A call after days of silence, a message after emotional distance, or a willingness to re-engage in conversation demonstrates that they are fighting their instinctual urge to retreat. They are saying in their own way, I don't want to lose you, even though this scares me. Their commitment doesn't show up in dramatic declarations or constant presence. It shows up in persistence, in returning, in staying attached to the bond despite the discomfort that intimacy triggers. Every time they re-enter the connection, it's a form of emotional bravery. People with avoidant styles aren't wired to chase, plead, or cling. That's not how they operate. So when they continue to stay in your life, even imperfectly, you are witnessing their version of devotion. This is important to understand. Avoidants do not invest in relationships that feel replaceable. They detach completely from people who don't matter. They don't keep doors open out of politeness. If someone becomes too much, too demanding, or emotionally risky without meaningful value, they exit without looking back. So when they don't leave, when they circle back after emotional shutdowns, or when they keep the connection alive in whatever form they can manage, it is a profound sign of what you mean to them. Their staying is also a reflection of trust. Little by little, your steadiness, patience, and authenticity create a sense of safety within They begin to associate you with comfort instead of pressure, with acceptance instead of expectation. As that trust grows, their willingness to remain grows with it. They begin to take small risks, opening up a bit more, showing vulnerability in unexpected moments, or sharing parts of their internal world. What may look inconsistent from the outside is actually progress from the inside. It is their heart learning a new language. It is their nervous system adapting to the possibility that connection doesn't have to equal danger. When an avoidant stays, they're rewriting their emotional script, challenging their past, and choosing growth over fear. Their choice to stay, even imperfectly, is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of deep, powerful commitment, rooted in love that is real, rare, and transformative. They value emotional safety, and your presence represents a rare sense of home. For an avoidant individual, safety is not just a comfort, it is a necessity. Their nervous system is tuned to detect threat and emotional closeness. Because of their history, intimacy often feels unpredictable, overwhelming, or even dangerous. They've learned that letting people in can lead to disappointment, rejection, or a loss of independence. Their instinct is to build walls high enough to prevent vulnerability. Yet when someone comes into their life who feels emotionally safe, everything shifts. You become the exception, not the rule. To understand the significance of this, you have to recognize how profoundly uncomfortable vulnerability is for them. Most people think of emotional safety as a bonus, but for avoidant individuals, it's the foundation upon which any meaningful connection must be built. Safety means they can breathe around you. It means they can sit with their feelings, without feeling pressured to perform, explain, or justify their emotional responses. It means they don't fear judgment when they don't express affection the same way others do. Emotional safety for them is the freedom to exist as they are, without having to constantly defend, hide, or manage their internal world. When your presence offers that kind of ease, it stands out. While others may trigger their protective instincts, you create the opposite effect. Something about you feels grounding. Perhaps it's your consistency, your empathy, your patience, or the way you understand their silence without taking it personally. Maybe it's your softness, or your strength, or your willingness to see beyond their defenses. Whatever the reason, you create a space where their heart doesn't feel under attack. And for an avoidant person, that is profoundly meaningful. To them, home is not a place, it is a feeling, one they rarely experience. Home is emotional freedom. It's the sense that they are accepted, not evaluated. It's the sense that they don't have to be perfect to be loved. Home is where their internal tension softens. When you provide that sense of home, you become someone they feel drawn to in a way they can't easily explain. Even if they pull away at times, even if they struggle to communicate, even if they go silent during emotional discomfort, there is a gravitational pull that keeps them connected to you. This is why they may open up to you in ways they don't with others. They may show small bits of vulnerability, sharing a childhood memory, admitting a fear, revealing parts of their inner world. These revelations might seem minor, but for them, they are huge signs of trust. They do not offer this level of openness to just anyone. They offer it only where they feel emotionally protected. Because you represent safety, they begin to associate your presence with calm rather than chaos, with acceptance rather than evaluation, with peace rather than pressure. That sense of home becomes something they crave, even if they fear it. They may retreat at times because the intensity of feeling safe is unfamiliar, almost shocking to their system, but they always return because safety is their deepest longing, even when it is their greatest fear. Your presence also becomes a mirror, reflecting to them a version of themselves that feels worthy of love. Avoidant individuals carry deep-rooted beliefs that they must handle everything alone, or that their emotions don't matter. When you show them compassion, understanding, and patience, you challenge those beliefs. You help them rewire old narratives. You become proof that intimacy doesn't have to lead to pain, that closeness doesn't have to suffocate, that love can coexist with freedom. They might not express it openly, but inside they recognize this difference. They feel the comfort they don't find anywhere else. And even if they struggle to articulate it, they value it more deeply than they can say. When your presence feels like home to an avoidant person, it means you've touched the most guarded part of their soul. You've become a safe harbor in a world that once taught them to navigate alone. And that sense of safety is one of the greatest gifts they can ever receive. Love for them is felt intensely, but shown cautiously because intimacy triggers old wounds. This dynamic is at the core of how avoidant individuals experience relationships. Their love is not shallow, nor is it half-formed. In fact, they often feel love with a level of depth and intensity that surprises even them. But intensity, or someone with avoidant tendencies, doesn't translate into outward expression. It translates into fear. It triggers the dormant emotional memories of times when vulnerability led to pain, disappointment, or emotional abandonment. So their instinct is not to expand toward the person they love. It is to contract. Not because they want less, but because they feel too much. This internal conflict between the depth of their affection and the fear attached to showing it creates a tension that shapes the way they behave. When they begin to care deeply, their nervous system activates old protective strategies: shut down, withdraw, minimize needs, avoid relying on others. These behaviors look like indifference from the outside, but internally they are battling a storm. Loving someone forces them to confront the very wounds they have spent their lives keeping buried. They fear that if they let their guard down, they will be consumed by emotions they don't know how to handle. So instead of leaning in, they retreat into behaviors that once kept them safe. The intensity of their love often scares them because it breaks through their carefully constructed emotional boundaries. They might find themselves thinking about you constantly, wanting to share more with you, or feeling the urge to open up, yet these desires push against the walls they've built around their hearts. When those walls begin to crack, their fear increases. They may feel emotions so strong that they are overwhelmed, and the sensation of being overwhelmed feels dangerous to them. So they slow down, shut down, or step back in an attempt to regain control. Their caution is not an absence of love. It is a symptom of how deeply they feel it. They reveal their love in ways that feel safe to them. Small gestures, practic. I'll help, quiet presence, or subtle signs of attentiveness. They may not say I love you easily or express their feelings in grand declarations, but they may show up when you need them most, remember the smallest details of your life, or protect the connection in ways that aren't obvious to others. These subtle expressions are reflections of feelings that run far deeper than their behaviors suggest. The paradox is that the more an avoidant loves you, the more they fear losing themselves in the relationship. Intimacy threatens their sense of independence, a trait they've relied on for emotional survival. Their entire identity may be built around the belief that they must handle everything alone, that vulnerability equals weakness, and that expressing needs is dangerous. Love challenges all of those beliefs. So while their heart says, move closer, their fear says, stay safe. The push and pull that results isn't inconsistency, it's self-preservation. This pattern also means that avoidant individuals may love with a kind of reverence. They protect their feelings by holding them close, almost sacred, inaccessible to the outside world. They may fantasize about closeness even while struggling with actual intimacy. Their dreams might feel more manageable than reality because dreams don't demand vulnerability. But in real connection, every step toward intimacy feels like stepping into a past where trust was betrayed. And yet, despite the fear, the love persists. It doesn't weaken with distance. In many cases, it strengthens. Their cautious expression doesn't diminish the depth of emotion. It simply reflects the emotional terrain they must cross to express it. If anything, the restraint they show is a sign of how powerful their feelings truly are. They don't toss their heart around carelessly. They guard it because they know how devastating it felt when it was mishandled. So when an avoidant person loves you, understand that their carefulness is not a lack of passion, but evidence of it. Their restraint is not distance. It is tenderness wrapped in fear. Their hesitancy is not rejection. It is protection, both of themselves and the connection they value. Their love is felt intensely, even when it is shown quietly. They open up slowly, but every small step toward closeness is a massive emotional leap. This truth captures the essence of how avoidant individuals move through relationships. Their emotional world is built on caution, on careful observation, on testing whether the space between them and another person is truly safe. While others might open their hearts quickly or share their feelings freely, an avoidant person unfolds at a much different pace. Their slow opening is not a sign of disinterest, it is a sign of deep internal work. Every inch they move toward you is not casual, it is monumental. Avoidant individuals carry a long history of learning that closeness can hurt. Maybe they grew up with emotional inconsistency, or felt unseen when they needed support. Perhaps they experienced relationships where vulnerability was punished rather than honored. Over time, they learned that the only way to protect their hearts was to keep them shielded. These defenses aren't just habits, they are survival strategies. So when they begin to trust someone, the emotional effort required to take even the smallest risk is huge. To them, opening up is the equivalent of lowering armor they have worn their entire lives. This is why their progress often appears slow. They may share a personal story only after months of connection. They may express affectio in subtle, understated ways. They may reveal their fears or insecurities only in moments of deep emotional safety. But each of these steps means more to them than others realize. What looks small on the surface is enormous underneath. A simple "I missed you," a rare moment of vulnerability, a spontaneous act of closeness. These are emotional milestones. They represent trust expanding and fear loosening its grip. It's important to understand that avoidant individuals don't open up gradually because they don't care. They open slowly because they care deeply. Their feelings develop beneath layers of caution. Beneath questions like, can I trust this? Will I get hurt? Will I lose myself? Will they expect too much from me? When someone matters to them, the stakes become higher. They worry about losing control. They worry about being overwhelmed by emotions they've spent years suppressing. They worry that if they reveal too much, too soon, They will be vulnerable in ways they do not know how to manage. So every step toward closeness is a triumph over fear. When they share something personal, they are testing whether you can be trusted with their truth. When they initiate contact, they are fighting against their instinct to remain cool and detached. When they ask for reassurance, it means they are letting you in deeper than most people ever get. And when they apologize, open their heart, or admit their feelings, it is nothing short of courageous. Their slow unfolding is also a reflection of how valuable you are to them. They don't invest emotional energy into relationships they don't care about. They don't reveal their inner world to people they don't trust. If they take a risk with you, however small, it is proof that you hold a special place in their heart. They may not shout their love from the rooftops, but they show it in the gentle peeling back of layers they've kept untouched for years. These shifts are often subtle, like glimmers of light breaking through heavy clouds. Maybe they start calling you more often. Maybe they confide their worries. Maybe they become more physically affectionate. Perhaps they invite you into their personal space or include you in parts of their routine. These are not small gestures. They are massive steps forward, each one representing a victory over the voice inside them that says, stay safe, stay distant, don't get hurt. As they open up, they learn that closeness doesn't have to threaten their independence. They begin to rewrite old emotional patterns. They start to discover that they can be loved without losing themselves. And this transformation doesn't happen in one sweeping moment. It happens in hundreds of tiny steps, steps that are easy to overlook but powerful once you understand their meaning. The slow pace of their opening is not resistance, it is reverence. It's their heart learning to trust again. It's their soul edging toward connection with trembling courage. And when they take even the smallest step toward you, understand that it's not small at all. It's a profound leap of faith in you, in the relationship, and in the possibility that love can be safe. Their love is intentional, because choosing someone despite fear is one of the purest expressions of devotion. This truth captures the heart of what makes an avoidant person's love so unique and profound. Love for them is never impulsive. It is never casual. It is never something they fall into lightly. Every emotional step they take, every commitment they make, and every moment they choose to stay connected is deliberate. They weigh their choices heavily because their emotional world is wired for protection, not risk. So when they choose you, despite the fear, despite the discomfort, despite the instinct to retreat, it is a testament to the power of the bond they feel with you. Avoidant individuals live with a heightened awareness of emotional danger. They often expect relationships to demand too much from them, overwhelm them, or expose vulnerabilities they've spent years hiding. Because of this, they do not attach themselves easily. They rarely pursue relationships out of loneliness or convenience. Instead, they move carefully, observing, evaluating, and testing whether the connection feels safe enough to invest in. Their love doesn't just happen, it RMS through intentional observation, internal negotiation, and emotional courage. This intentionality is what makes their love so meaningful. When they choose to love you, they're not doing it out of habit, obligation, or impulse. They're choosing with full awareness of the risks. They know love could unsettle their emotional balance. They know closeness might challenge their independence. They know vulnerability will expose them to possible pain. Yet they still choose you because something about you breaks through their defenses. Something about you feels worth the emotional stretch. Something in you makes the fear feel bearable. Their love becomes an act of bravery. Every time they allow themselves to lean closer, to share something personal, or to let you see behind their emotional armor, they are performing an act of intentional devotion. They do not open their hearts accidentally. They do so because they see something in you they cannot find easily elsewhere. They see someone who offers safety, someone who understands them, someone who doesn't demand more than they can give while still inspiring them to grow. Even the ways they show love reflect this intentionality. They might express it through loyalty, consistency in their own style, acts of service, or quiet gestures that speak louder than words. They notice what matters to you. They remember your preferences, your stories, your dreams. They protect the relationship not with flamboyant romance, but with subtle yet powerful actions, returning after distance, checking in when it matters, supporting you in the ways they know how. Their love is deliberate because emotional expression does not come naturally to them. They have to choose every time to override their instinct to remain guarded. Their intentional love also reveals their growth. Avoidant individuals often know their patterns. They know they retreat. They know they struggle with vulnerability. When they push themselves to stay open, even in small ways, it's because they see the relationship as something worth fighting their inner battles for. They are not just choosing you, they are choosing to evolve. They are choosing to challenge the part of themselves that once believed emotional closeness was unsafe. And perhaps the most profound part is this: they choose you even when it scares them. They lean in when their past tells them to run. They stay connected when their reflex is to detach. They allow feelings to deepen even when those feelings shake the foundations of their emotional security. This willingness to choose love in the face of fear is not weakness. It is strength of the highest form. It is devotion born from authenticity, not comfort. It is commitment forged in courage, not convenience. Their love is intentional because they don't have the luxury of loving carelessly. They love with awareness. They love with discernment. They love with a cautious, yet powerful heart. And when they give that heart to you, even if they do it slowly, imperfectly, or quietly, it is one of the truest, most meaningful expressions of devotion you will ever encounter. Thank you for the trust, the presence, and the energy you brought into this moment. Goodbye for now. May clarity, strength, and peace continue to walk with you when you look at the journey of an avoidant soul, one who fears closeness yet feels deeply, who withdraws yet still returns, who battles themselves just to stay connected. You begin to see that their love is not ordinary. It is forged in vulnerability, strengthened through fear, and shaped by Be courage to keep showing up even when their instincts tell them to run. You become a mirror of safety, a reminder that intimacy can exist without loss and that love can exist without fear controlling the outcome. And in that sacred space, both of you rise, both of you grow, both of you heal. Because love like this is not meant to break you, it's meant to transform you. Thank you for sharing this moment, for opening your heart to deeper understanding and truth. Goodbye for now. May love meet you with clarity, courage, and the gentle strength you deserve.